That kill was righteous.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
What's up?
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hello! You sound
in-
like Mrs. Devereaux. Did you ever see that SNL sketch? We always derail Chris's intro. I'm sorry. That Alec Baldwin is like the master impressionist, but every impression is, hello, this is Mrs. Devereaux. Anyway.
I thought it was Mrs. Doubtfire, actually.
Yeah.
But
It's definitely a Mrs. something.
Yeah.
Doubtfire.
It's a guy trying to sound like a woman.
Correct.
But today we're going to continue our series of best of the years we've been alive, and we're at 2008.
I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you?
That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
Not talent. I'm not talking about talent. I said genius. Genius.
Like there's something wrong with wanting to have a good time.
I'll tell you something. I hated the fucking 90s.
Report back to me when, I don't know, when it makes sense.
Get off my lawn.
I'm gonna roll you into a little ball and shove you up my vagina.
When Ted get here, he gonna be like, kill that motherfucker. Kill your motherfucker. Yeah. Watch your head.
We're gonna figure it out there. Let's go surfing. Come on. Everybody's learning how. Come on. The weather outside is weather.
First, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face.
Yeah.
I fucking believe that shit?
Party.
I'm just a dude trying to sound like a dude, trying to sound like a woman.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, hinting
so-
at a 2008 movie
Exactly.
we discuss.
So 2008, I think the very first movie we should start off with here is The Dark Knight, because not only did it make the most money out of this year, it also changed the way the Oscars decided to do their Best Picture nominees.
At least for a time.
Because for the longest time, it's like 5 movies got in, and then after Dark Knight got snubbed in some people's eyes, they decided to do like some random, like it wasn't a limit. It was just kind of like, well, whatever we think might be Best Picture, we'll throw it on the nominees list or whatever. But anyway, The Dark Knight, amazing.
Amazing. This is one of those movies, I may never have gone into a movie more hyped and come out even more impressed than I expected to be.
Oh, yeah?
Like by the time it came out, everybody had read that Heath Ledger was apparently great in this movie. Most of us liked Batman Begins. I'm a huge Batman comic nerd from my youth. And so I went in the way I went into Matrix Reloaded. It could have been shitty, and I probably would have come out and said, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I came out saying, that was goddamn amazing.
Did Heath Ledger die before this came out or
Yes.
right after?
Yeah, he
Before.
did. The semi, like the posters were out. Like you could see, I remember actually I was going to a meeting at a theater, and I saw the poster as I walked up it. And that morning, that's when I heard the news. And it was just one of those crazy things, man. You're in a movie theater and you just saw that poster, and that happened, and it happened like a mile away from me and everything. I was just like, whoa. But yeah, that did happen before it came out, and it probably vaulted it a lot, morbidly vaulted the movie up higher than it probably would have normally done, but because Heath Ledger had become sort of a, Kurt Cobain or whatever, this is what sort of happened for that movie. And not only that, though, it was so good that for a minute there, you thought maybe it might be the #1 movie of all time. It got very close to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking last week about 2 of the best villains of this century, if not all time, and this has got to be up in the conversation.
It does,
too.
because especially if you have any previous association with like the Batman lore, because Nicholson was great in Burton's Batman, but he's just a criminal. Right? He wants to get Batman out of the way. But the Joker's always had this symbiotic relationship with Batman where they sort of need each other. They're the yin and yang. And he even says in this movie, you complete me.
Yeah.
I don't want to kill you. And it gets that right about the Joker for the first time on film. In addition to just sort of the whole element of chaos. Like, he doesn't have an end game other than just chaos. And that's what the Joker's always been like in the comics as well.
Yeah, that's what I've always loved about this movie is there's so many balls in the air, basically, that he's sort of juggling around, and it is all to what end? It's really just to see everybody running around and trying to solve all these things, and he's always a step ahead, and it's just I love it so much. It's especially the opening part of this movie.
Yeah.
The bank robbery, which I think this was where you finally said comic book movies can be more.
Mm-hmm.
Was this movie?
So why haven't these movies reached that level? Even Dark Knight Rises. Like, why can't we get to this point again? Because there's nothing that's come close.
Well,
to
Dark
this,
Knight Rises, clearly. I mean, I think he was clearly going to bring the Joker back 8 years later had Heath Ledger not died. And out of respect, you don't go back to the Joker with a different actor. And so they went to Bane and Catwoman, and it just it's very similar to Spider-Man 3. It's just that Spider-Man 3 was studio pressure, and The Dark Knight Rises was somebody died and you had to change your plan completely. And there are elements of Rises that work, but the things that the few cracks there are in The Dark Knight are just exposed even more, like the way Nolan shoots action and especially car chases and things like that. But what this movie did, I remember saying to friends, like, this doesn't have to be a superhero movie. I mean, it is in a sense, but this is a crime thriller. This is a heist movie in the beginning that morphs into just a city crime drama. And I do think Winter Soldier at least tried to pick a genre. I don't think it succeeded in being like a 70s spy film like everybody who loves it says it is, but I think it was trying to be a genre film in the world of superheroes, and I do wish we'd see more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the movie doesn't rely on, like, I think what Winter Soldier does, where it's trying to be this, over-the-top comic book action movie at the same time as trying to be this 70s. It doesn't really mesh together well, I don't think. I mean, that's our opinions, obviously. Like, everybody else thinks it's great, it's the best, but it goes to show that these movies can be told in a way that you could take Batman out of it and it's still like a good movie.
Yeah.
You could change the characters and it's not a comic book movie and it's still a great movie.
Yeah. And nobody relies on performances in comic book movies. It doesn't seem like, nobody like points to, the Avengers and says like, oh, we've got a really killer performance from somebody.
Right.
It was like impactful.
Yeah.
Like this was. And maybe they should. Maybe they say like, let's try to make this well acted, to where you want to win awards and that kind of stuff.
Well, it's so clear that Heath Ledger wanted to do this right. And, there's lots of stories about the journal he was keeping and how he would stay in character a lot and ride around on set on the skateboard. And the scene where he's got the guy hostage and he's like, look at me, like that. Basically, Nolan just sent those two off with a video camera. And Ledger, in effect, staged and directed those sequences. He was in the headspace of this character.
Yeah.
Now, his family has said, that is not what led to his drugs and downfall. He wasn't like in such a dark place after playing the Joker. He was despairing, but he did go there, like, kind of the way Daniel Day-Lewis would.
It is also kind of amazing that this movie makes its city a character. Like, you don't see that in comic book movies. I mean, a lot of these comic book movies are usually in New York or whatever, but they shoot New York sort of like as just a prop, basically. It's not really. This one is Chicago, and even though it's Gotham, there's very Chicago. It's a very Chicago movie.
Yeah, they use the then under construction Trump Tower as the final set piece.
Yeah.
And we actually walked through the Marina City towers where they have the first scene with the parking lot and everything, where they're driving down in the circle and everything.
Well, and to speak to Dark Knight Rises again, they shot that in Pittsburgh. And you can tell it doesn't feel like the same vibrant city that we got when we shot in Chicago.
Yeah, and Dark Knight Rises also goes back and forth between Pittsburgh, New York, and all these different cities to where it's really not. I mean, I think they shot Batman Begins in London even to try to keep making Gotham change and everything. But Batman and Dark Knight Rises, they just seemed like they were going all over the place, and I never really got a feel for that being the part of the movie and everything, even though Pittsburgh's got its little special things about it, the Three Rivers and all that.
Yeah.
in Chicago, it's just very stark.
Yeah.
You know, just how everything plays into the Joker's plan in there. But wonderful movie. It's going to be one of those that it's going to be in that voting at the end.
Yeah, and if it doesn't win, there are going to be a lot of listeners that are sad because I think it has that kind of reputation. Fantastic movie. If you've somehow never seen it, go watch it. I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know what to tell you.
One of the things I like, real quick before we stop, is how many great supporting characters give great performances, even though they only have, like William Fichtner's in that opening bank scene. You and your friends are dead.
Yeah.
Don't you know who you're stealing from? And then you've got Michael Jai White as one of the gangsters, and you've got Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
What makes you think I want to hear you talk?
Yeah.
And just another movie, a lesser movie, would either cast lesser actors or just not try to coax great performances out of people who only have like 5 lines. But anyway, helps sell the realism, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This was also the beginning of Marvel's attempt to make this big, huge cinematic universe, and it was Iron Man that started off the summer, basically. Another great one.
Yeah.
This isn't as good as Dark Knight, but
still my favorite Marvel movie.
The best Marvel movie to me, too. Just incredible. And we've talked about Iron Man a lot, so we don't need to go too much into it, but what a summer for comic book movies.
Yeah, and who would have thought that Jon Favreau could do this?
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, had he directed? He directed Maid, right?
Well, yeah, he had done Maid, and he'd done Zathura.
Elf,
but nothing to the scale that this was.
Yeah.
And then when this came out, when I saw the trailers, I was like, who gives a fuck about Iron Man? I really said that.
It's such a tertiary character. You got Jon Favreau directing. Robert Downey Jr. at that point had fallen kind of off the map.
Yeah.
And you had this weird, ostensibly clunky Marvel character that's not, somebody flashy like Captain America.
Yeah.
Worked so good.
I remember seeing trailers and the effects didn't look good and all that stuff. That usually the stuff that like people who like to write articles like to write about and say that it's going to hurt the movie, but it never does.
Yeah,
it never does. But I remember seeing the effects and I was like, I don't know. I mean, come on. I don't know if I'm even going to watch this movie. And then I watched it and I was like, man, this is good.
Yeah, and it has that great ending too, where he does the exact opposite what you expect, and he stands up at the press conferences and says, "I am Iron Man."
Yeah,
and it basically just ends on that, and that was pretty ballsy and funny and cool for a superhero in the cinematic world to do. We've never seen that.
Yeah.
In fact, Dark Knight plays on that with the whole press conference where Aaron Eckhart declares he's Batman.
Yeah.
But no, I love Iron Man. To this day, it's my favorite Marvel. And again, if you somehow haven't seen that, get cracking.
All right, guys. What else do you want to talk about?
Let's go the exact opposite direction from big, huge budget, and let's talk about The Wrestler for a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, in my opinion, Aronofsky's best film. I think it has the grit and emotion of Black Swan, but in a much more micro-focused way, a much more relatable way, I think. And I love Black Swan. I've seen this movie. This movie was on yesterday, and I watched about an hour of it again just because I knew we were going to talk about it today. And it's just so good. Mickey Rourke hits this one out of the park. And there are just so many quiet moments. Like there's a scene where he gets out of his car and goes into a store, and we follow him the whole way, and nobody says anything. We're just following this beaten down, tired guy walking. I love this movie. I don't know what you guys think.
It's interesting. This is not his most kinetic movie. It's probably his least kinetic movie, but it's also it's one of his best because the performances and a world we don't really look at very much. It's amateur wrestling, basically, right? I mean, I guess it's pro, but it's not.
It's a pro. After his glory years.
Yeah, you're still getting
on the amateur circuit.
This is the point where they're getting like $25 or something to go out and do these wrestling, because he's going to he's working another job. He's going and he's like, there's that funny scene where he's like, hey, he's getting the trash can lids or something like that, and he's like, how do you think this will, this will, and like he's buying all this cheap stuff to do in the thing. But yeah, man, this is a great movie, and I love the ending to this. One of the most emotionally powerful endings that you'll see in a movie. And it leaves it a little bit like open-ended. You don't know whether or not that is going to kill him or not.
Right. But he has a heart attack in the movie. He's been told you've got to stop. And he simply can't. He has no other choice. There's no other way for him to get money. And there's a lot that's rough to watch in this movie because he does a match with barbed wire, and plenty of shots in the locker room of doctors pulling shit out of his back.
Oh yeah,
stitching
staples
up
and all
wounds.
that. Yeah,
And it's just a rough, hard movie. But in real life, there was a wrestler who's 50-something and saw this movie and came up to Mickey Rourke bawling and hugging him after he saw the film because it was so realistic to what this guy had gone through. I want to say it was like Roddy Piper or somebody like that.
It's an ugly movie to watch.
It is,
but you could totally see the realism of this.
Yeah,
even if it's not 100% real, it looks like it could be.
Well, this is a sort of the thing that the documentary Beyond the Mat delved into, and I believe that came out in like 99, 2000, somewhere around there, where yes, the actual outcome of a wrestling match is predetermined. So there's a lot of fakeness in it, but they're actually getting hurt, like horribly hurt.
Yeah,
and to the point of it's you're talking about concussions, you're talking about barbed wires, getting all these kind of scrapes, falling from great distances and landing
off ladders.
Yeah, off ladders and stuff. And Beyond the Mat sort of showed you like, man, yeah, it's fake, but man, they are taking all the beating of a real match in these things. And that's where the wrestler also sort of takes into that thing, because it's all fake, but yeah, they're getting hurt, man. They're getting super hurt.
Yeah, and that's what this movie's all about. He's been through that, and he's still doing it.
Yeah.
And, oh, God, I love this movie so much. I just wanted to bring it up.
It's great.
Yeah. All right, Barrett, I think it's your turn to throw one out there.
Okay. There's a couple of amazing comedies. In fact, there's a few amazing comedies that came out this year. Probably my favorite, I don't know if I could pick a favorite of this year, but it would probably be Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Just this movie hits you out of nowhere on every level. Starting from really the first bit when they're in the jungle and the director stamps on a landmine.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you start that, because it's almost like a traditional like powerhouse raucous comedy up until that point.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is some real shit. And then it goes even further from there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When they walk off, they decide to just, he's not dead, and that was a setup. They're talking and walking away, and from way back in the back, Robert Downey Jr., motherfucker, this guy is dead.
Yeah, it's got that little bit of that man who knew too little kind of in it at the beginning of it, because they're sure they're getting filmed. And it's also like opens up in a unique way because it's got 3 fake trailers that show up. And it was funny because I remember as a projectionist, I was like, what the fuck? Because usually you have some cues that sort of tell you, all right, this is where I need to make the lights go down and all this other type of stuff. And like, I was building this movie, and usually there's like a logo, and you have, okay, cool. This one goes right into that booty sweat thing, and you're like, and I was like, whoa, what the hell? And all 3 of those trailers are fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, I think if you count booty sweat, there's 4, because we get the Scorcher trailer.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
Gay Priest trailer with Tobey Maguire. Best Kiss winner from MTV Awards
with added context, since they were in Wonder Boys, and basically the same deal there.
I've seen Tropic Thunder maybe a dozen times, and I always forget it's Robert Downey Jr. somewhere in the middle there, because the voice and obviously the face and makeup and the outfit and everything. But I love when he starts to break down like 2/3 of the way through, and Al Pacino is just like, "Why are you still doing this Chicken George shit? I do not understand." He's like, "Yeah, I'm messed up. I don't get it either."
Well, and speaking of unrecognizable, Tom Cruise is in this with. I always loved going into this movie during the credits and watching people, and like at the end of it where it was like, and Tom Cruise, you'd see some people go, I didn't know that was him.
Yeah.
And he's great in this. So good.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so like, it's one of the most offensive characters we've ever seen in a movie, and Tom Cruise is playing it. You'd never guess that would be him. He's got these oversized arms and hands and everything, and when we first see him, he's just like, he tells basically a grip to punch Steve Coogan in the head really fucking hard.
The guy just does it immediately.
Goes over there. Sorry. But yeah, what a great cast, and like in this movie, obviously I had a lot of some controversy too, because even though Robert Downey Jr. is playing a guy who is playing a guy who's putting blackface on and everything, it still got some controversy for that.
Yes.
and the fact that he, you know, when you say don't go full retard, and all other times, that got a big. In fact, now in the edited version is full special.
Yeah, don't go full special, which is so stupid because that is exactly the kind of thing a stuck-up, award-winning actor would say.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's not Robert Downey Jr. or the movie calling people retards. It's the character casually using the word to describe how he chooses projects.
Yeah.
And how it's a shame because that's a fucking hysterical scene. He's setting him up for like 90 seconds. He was like, I saw that blood. You really went for it in that movie, didn't you? He's like, yeah, you know, sometimes I actually felt like I was stupid.
Yeah.
Like a real moron, huh? He's just playing him all the way, and I just love it.
And apparently they were going to go a little bit farther with that character too, but Brandon Jackson, who plays Al Pacino in this, was like, you know, look, I understand what we're going for. You cannot go that far.
Well, and that's interesting that I didn't know that, but that just makes his. Because he's basically the straight man to Robert Downey Jr.'s character. He's the only one calling
what you mean,
him on
you
it.
people?
Yeah, what do you mean, you people?
Yeah.
And so it almost makes his lines ring even truer to know that somewhere under there he was a little bothered with where they had wanted to go with it.
I think it was use of the N-word and like him being able to say that, and because he's playing a character and everything, and Ben Stiller said something like, "Yeah, he saved the movie for us. We're glad we didn't go that."
That's
so
the theme
clever,
song for the
though.
Jeffersons.
Yeah. It's so
just because
clever,
a theme
man.
song don't make it not true.
Fucking Ben Stiller hit it out of the park.
Yeah, it's his best movie.
Yeah, and I mean, similar to like Jon Favreau, who would have thought that somebody like Ben Stiller, who's talented, would be able to handle this massive action comedy?
In the end, this is a huge movie. Like it's got a lot of stuff in it and everything. He apparently was inspired because a lot of his friends would actually go to like actors boot camp to do war movies and stuff. And they would come back claiming that they had like really went through boot camp and everything. And he was like, this is fucking ridiculous. So that's why he made this movie. Basically, he was inspired by that because you didn't go through boot camp. You didn't go through real boot camp. You think you did. I mean, because you had to run a little bit or whatever.
Well, and it even goes further with Nick Nolte's character, who's the writer of this story that supposedly lived through this true event, has no hands, and says shit like, what's the name of that gun you got? I don't know what it's called. I just know the sound it makes when it takes a man's life. And then it comes back around on him perfectly at the end when he's been caught. And what's his name? The explosions guy found out.
Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride found out he's got hands. He's like, I don't know. I only know the sound it makes when it lies. But yeah, and now I would say a comedy that's just as funny, but way more underseen is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm hoping that's the other one you're going to bring up.
Yeah, definitely.
This is by far my favorite Jason Segel anything to watch performance-wise, but everybody in this movie is just so funny.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's got Russell Brand, who I had never heard of or seen before this movie.
I watched the movie because of what I saw Russell Brand doing in the trailer.
Yeah, and it's so perfectly aloof, but he actually ultimately is a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
And then, everybody from Jonah Hill, who's kind of in love with that character, and Kristen Bell, and Paul Rudd is freaking hilarious as this forgetful stoner, and has one of my spit take lines. One of the only times I actually had a drink in my mouth and spit some out was when he does that line after the newlywed couple with the red hair goes back upstairs to fuck some more, and he's like, "She's pretty. I wonder if her carpet matches her pubes." Oh, I always stop and watch this movie when it's on. It's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah, all the bit players are great. Like Jack McBrayer is terrific, and Mila Kunis, of course, is great. And Paul Rudd, you never seen a Paul Rudd performance like this.
Not quite.
As the surfer Canoe.
Kunu.
And
looks like he got some pain behind those eyes.
Yeah.
He says it to the very next person.
He says it to him twice in a row.
And he's like, stand up. Stop doing. You're doing too much. Okay, now you're not doing anything at all. Okay, you don't. Just let's go outside, man. Let's do it. Whatever.
This also has those great like CSI type things in it with Kristen Bell, because she's an actress in the movie, and it's what is it, William Baldwin?
I think it's William Baldwin, yeah.
I think it's William Baldwin who's playing the David Caruso, basically. And, like, there's so many of those, like, because those shows get away with such filthy stuff. And this is a little bit more filthy because it's in an R-rated movie and everything. But just like, yeah, it said that he came on the dead body after he killed her or whatever. That type of thing. It's one of those. I don't know if that line's in there, but it's something like that. It's something I came up with in my brain right now that you should be afraid of. Yeah, man, and the Hawaiian setting and just everything about that, just, I don't know, something puts you at ease during this thing. And there's so many little funny things in it, man. Jason Segel's little Muppet thing, the vampire Muppets and everything, that's fantastic because you hear about it the entire movie. And usually when they talk about something like that and then you see it, it's like, okay, that wasn't very good or whatever. But this, like, I would have loved to watch a movie like
hell
that.
Yeah. And famously, to help make sure the puppeteering stuff went right, he went to Jim Henson Studios for advice. And that began the relationship that led to him starring in and revitalizing the Muppet movies. And that first one they did with him was fantastic. But yeah, I love the Dracula puppet show at the end. I could watch the whole thing.
With the music and everything, it's perfect.
Yeah, and by the way, Bill Hader almost steals the show in both this and Tropic Thunder. Yeah. Because in Tropic Thunder, he's the yes man behind Tom Cruise. He's like, the goody room. Yeah. And in this, he's the friend back home who's trying to give advice. And Jason Segel makes his wife look on the iChat like she's giving him a BJ. Yeah. It's just so freaking funny.
You don't need to put your P in somebody's V right now.
Yeah. And then, of course, he goes and he, like, bangs so many chicks and everything. And he's just like, and there's the one girl who keeps saying, hi. Hi.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. And then the one girl who's just, like, obviously just out of it or whatever. And she's like, I think it just came. He's just like looks down at her like, but yeah, man, what a funny movie. And that would be a recommend out of this if you haven't seen this because it's so funny.
Oh yeah,
one of the better comedies we've seen.
It should be talked about right up there with Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin, and it's just not because not as many people saw it, and that's just a crime.
Yeah, and it is an Apatow produced movie, but it was Nicholas Stoller who directed this one, and I guess because it didn't really, I mean, Apatow, even at this point, it may have been already sort of coming down in people's eyes as like a, because it was like every movie had Apatow on it at this point. And then you started beginning to wonder, what does that really mean? Does it mean we're going to see something really funny? At the time, yes, but that movie just kind of like, it just slipped through the cracks somehow. And I don't know what it was. Bad release date. I think it was April. It came out. It wasn't really the best time for it, I don't think.
It might also just have been that Jason Segel wasn't seen as a leading man at that point, even though he carries this film fine, but he'd been seen more as a supporting comedy player and stuff like Knocked Up. But yeah, it's one of my favorite comedies of probably the last 20 years.
Another big comedy that came out was Step Brothers, another Apatow movie. Now, I like this. I like this movie. This is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and their perfect comic team, really, and everything in this. And it's got a lot of great moments. Richard Jenkins is great in this. Mary Steenburgen is good in this. You have Adam Scott is funny in this. It's got a lot of great moments.
I haven't had a carb in 4 years.
Yeah. But seeing John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, who are just basically Dumb and Dumber as stepbrothers, basically is what it is.
Yeah. And they must like working together. We're going to get a comic Sherlock Holmes from them in the next year or two.
Oh, and that's going to be great.
I think it probably will be. It's one of those duos that I don't think I'll get sick of, even if not all the movies are up to par. Just those two playing off each other, and they've done it in so many different ways, different characterizations. This just always cracks me up.
Yeah. And once again, reuniting with Adam McKay, who's generally does pretty good work with Will Ferrell. They know each other. They've done stuff forever at this point.
Yeah.
But
this is probably the most. It's weird saying it because of like Talladega Nights and Anchorman and all that stuff. This is probably the most broad, like just screwball humor.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I can watch it anytime it comes on. And even when it gets to like the Catalina wine mixer or whatever it is at the end where they're trying to like sell their their company, and it's prestige worldwide.
Yeah.
You know, and they keep flashing up things of like, we do catering, research, development, and you know they put a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Just immediately dismissed.
That's the thing. It's a really good emotional payoff in that movie because they are such fuck ups the entire time, and then when they get to that, you realize, whoa, they really did take all this stuff seriously. Because you see a montage of them going through all this, like they're reading books and they're doing all this. You're like, okay, what are they really doing? But you know, it's like, whoa, they really actually put a lot of work into this. Kathryn Hahn is fantastic. In this movie.
Oh yeah.
She's like in love with John C. Reilly in this movie, and she's married to Adam Scott. And there's a part where she like kisses John C. Reilly in the men's bathroom, and it's an insane scene. She kisses him, goes over to the urinal, hikes her leg up, and just pees.
I forgot about that.
And I'm just that's the type of stuff I love. It so goes there, and it's one of those type of things. I love it.
Great.
What else, guys?
Well, let's just stay on comedy because there's at least a couple more worth mentioning. I think Role Models came out in 2000.
I love Role Models.
This is Sean William Scott.
Paul Rudd again, and one of the largest amounts of screen time yet devoted to LARPing. Yes,
and it's McLovin, isn't it?
It is. Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
I've only seen this once or twice, but I remember laughing really hard, particularly at the super foul-mouthed kid that's played Sean William Scott, who keeps threatening him the whole movie. But really, really funny stuff. Jane Lynch.
Jane Lynch, who steals this entire movie easily. So good because she's this character. As soon as she's introduced, she's like, I don't like being bullshitted, guys. and just very but she goes through all her backstory. Is so funny, man, and she just casually says it. It's like, and she goes, my dad was a drinker, and my mom, by necessity, was a whore. And goes through all that, and she's this no nonsense person, but man, she steals it so much. I also love this line. I would always go in and watch this movie because I was like, please someone be with me and laugh at this because nobody ever laughed at it. But there's that big scene where Sean William Scott and the girl they go to that camp or whatever, and she says, oh, I'm willing to cheat on my boyfriend now because there's a mileage rule and all this other type of stuff. So like they take all these drugs and everything.
Yeah,
and
Ambien.
Yeah. And so like the next morning he's just out in the middle of, he's like just naked, just like outside of his tent. And David Wayne, who's the director of this movie, has a little small part in it. There's like a group of people just observing him on the ground. And he's just like, well, that's a case of, guy on the ground. And I would go in and watch this, and I would be like, please be loud laughter, and no one would get it or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just know what he said. I don't know, but I love Role Models.
That Jane Lynch scenes, or those final scenes where she's got the bagel dog.
Oh,
and she's
just
like doing the thing where it's spoken out. She's like, hey, kill me for whatever reason.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
I think the other comedy that you guys were talking about was Pineapple Express.
Yeah,
Apatow really was like huge in like nearly all these movies except for Role Models, and Tropic Thunder was, Step Brothers, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and this all had Apatow attached to it.
Wow.
But Pineapple Express, I think, is just a bit too long and too violent.
It is alarmingly violent.
Yeah, it's just, it never gets quite to that stoner like kind of comedy that you really want, I don't think, even though it's got some funny moments in it.
I agree with you completely. It's a little below the ones we've been talking about. But when they try and kick out that police cruiser window and his foot gets stuck in the middle of the glass.
Yeah.
Oh, the first time I saw that, I was so shocked in hilarity. I almost cried laughing. I just thought, but you're right. I think a lot of the comedy falls a little flatter. And I think it's because it's trying to be, this is one of those movies that wants to be both a serious action movie and a serious stoner comedy. Mm. And those don't often mesh very well. Can't think of any off the top of my head that are like, oh yeah, it's got like if you just gave Jason Bourne a bunch of weed,
Yeah.
and he was cracking stupid jokes the whole time. That's kind of what this is. And Danny McBride is unkillable in this movie.
Yeah.
But there's lots to enjoy. I wouldn't call it bad at all, but just not one I would go back to ahead of the others.
Yeah, and really the funniest part for me is one very small moment with Gary Cole, where he's looking at this giant knife, and he's talking to Rosie Perez, and he's like, "Has anybody seen my bigger knife?" It's my favorite part of that movie, and it's just that.
Well, Craig Robinson gets in some great lines.
Yeah, he does.
And at the very end, when the guy shoots his ear off,
Oh,
Seth
yeah,
Rogen does,
yeah.
it's like he's genuinely crying and like upset that they would do this. And Seth Rogen is like holding his ear, and he's like, "Let go of me, let go of me." He's on the other side of the room. I fucking love that.
And now I just looked it up, and Apatow wasn't a part of Tropic Thunder. I thought he was, because he and Ben Stiller had a long relationship, so I just assumed that, like, he did it. But the other three that I talked about, definitely.
It's a good year.
Yeah. What else, guys?
Well, let's go far away from comedy now. I like jumping all the way on the other end of the spectrum. Did you guys see Doubt?
I did.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, Meryl Streep.
Once again, amazing.
Amy Adams. What's that?
Yeah, once again, amazing.
He is. It's much more restrained, Philip Seymour Hoffman. And Viola Davis, I think, steals this movie
Yes, she
in one
does.
scene. And the end kills me.
Yeah.
Now, this is based on a stage play, so it makes sense that this is an actor's piece, and everyone shines.
Mhm.
Everyone is playing their role perfectly. Even Meryl Streep, who's ostensibly the villain here, she's still doing what she thinks is right.
Right.
She's still... And this is sort of examining a priest that may or may not be developing an inappropriate relationship with one of the altar boys. And maybe it's just my upbringing as a preacher's kid that drew me so much to this. Like, I was pulled in completely. And the movie, I'll tell you right now, never tells you whether or not he did it. And it's for the movie's better.
In fact, it's to the movie's title that this is why it's such a good drama. Because, if they did tell you outright, then there would be no doubt. But, it's an actor's piece. It's one of those things where you just sit down, you plop down, and you just watch it and just get mesmerized by some actors, because that's what it is. And it's the very best that we have.
Yeah, and they're just all hitting it out of the park. I'm pretty sure most of them were nominated.
Nominated for 5 Oscars. I know Viola Davis was, because she got it for that very
Meryl
small.
Streep was.
Meryl Streep always is. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Amy Adams, Viola Davis, and then the writing by John Patrick Shanley.
Yeah, I just watched that Viola Davis scene again today before I came down here, just to remind myself how great she is, because she's not really in any other scenes of the movie, maybe 1 or 2 other small ones. And, she's not saying anything you or Meryl Streep are expecting her to say. She's kind of playing the exact opposite of what you think, but she's so emotional and so real in that moment. God, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually one of the later Meryl Streep performances that I really like. A lot of times, she's a legend, and we just let everything skate by. She's good and everything, or whatever. This is the last one that I really remembered, other than Devil Wears Prada and stuff like that, where she's very showy and everything. But a lot of these movies, sometimes I don't even watch the movie because the subject doesn't interest me, and then when I do see her, it's like, okay, she's perfectly good in that. Yeah. I think it's beneath her, this material, but whatever. But she's amazing in this, really good. So another big one that came out in 2008, Wally.
Wally. The balls on this movie.
Absolutely.
To open with no dialogue for as long as it goes, trusting that kids could handle it. And it's only because the character design and vocal inflections on Wally are just perfect and adorable, and he just draws you right in. But there's never been anything like this in a kid's movie before.
Right? Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, man, I love it so much. I don't like the end half as much as I like the beginning. I like the whole a whole lot. But I could watch those first 20 minutes any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm the same here. It's like actually an achievement in filmmaking during that first 20 minutes. And it tells its story pretty well. The scene that I love the most in that first 20 minutes is him starting to shudder and everything, and his belt's getting worn and everything.
Yeah.
And he looks at the cockroach, and he looks down at another belt from an old model of his, like a brother of his or whatever. And like the next scene, you just see him scooting along with a brand new belt on and everything. And he just looks back at the cockroach, and it's like, and they just go about their ways. Like, that's how I handle that.
Yeah.
The
animation in this is shockingly amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
I think it takes it up another level from where it was at before.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which was amazing too. But the attention to detail in this is amazing. And my favorite scene in this is the whole space dance that he and Eve do.
The music is so incredible.
The music is amazing. That was Thomas Newman, I think. Right?
Yeah.
And then, but the spray that comes off of the fire extinguisher is so goddamn realistic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
Man, I love this. This is up there with Pixar's best for me.
I would agree. I think it's in the top 3 or 4 probably. It's just a fun adventure. I love the poking Disney does at our, food crazed, consumption crazed, lazy society, to where their bones are too small for them to even frickin' walk anymore.
Yeah. Well, they actually thought about what would we be like in a ship with nothing to do but really get everything we want on demand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all these people, they're just like ported around on like little like chairs and stuff, and they've got everything they need. They got their TV, they got their little drink holder, they got things coming over and selling them stuff. It's just like, that's all that's your life, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all these people, they don't even meet other people really until like, there's hijinks later. But yeah, the ending of this sort of knocks it down a little bit. It never like quite reaches what that beginning promises and everything. But yeah, I can forgive that.
Get your step to Centennial Cupcake.
But yeah, this is that continuing stretch where Pixar is amazing, and I don't know when the Pixar, like Disney and Pixar, had their like next contract negotiation. It was somewhere around here, I think. And that's where they started saying, all right, we're going to be doing Cars 2, and we're going to be doing Toy Story 3, and we're going to, everything was a sequel and everything, because there was a point where Pixar was about to break off from Disney. And I think they both need each other, but they also, I think Pixar lost a lot in translation after that contract.
Well, they did, but it hasn't been a net negative, because Disney Animation's been cranking out better stuff since Lasseter got in charge of all of it, like Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen, and this Moana looks like it's fantastic. But Pixar's efforts themselves do occasionally seem to stumble or suffer because of it.
And I've always thought, though, that the reason why Disney's animation wing without Pixar was doing so well was because Lasseter was giving them the better stories.
Maybe.
Because Big Hero 6 would have been a Pixar movie.
Sure.
I mean, there's so many. Maybe I'm saying that more in the line of if they didn't start their own, because they started their own thing just because they thought Pixar was leaving, and their movies that they were coming out with at the time were not good.
Right.
It was like Chicken Little and what was the other one? Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and they were very low rent type of cartoons. And then Lasseter gets a part of it, and suddenly it's like, they do Princess and the Frog, which is not their, like, it's not a computer. They're trying to go back to traditional animation with that one. But then you start getting Wreck-It Ralph, and you start getting all this. Suddenly they were good.
Yeah.
and I felt like these movies would have been Pixar movies, but they wouldn't have been, obviously, because if Pixar broke off, those stories would have never gotten to Pixar, probably.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So it's an interesting thing to I hope one day we get to see a documentary about that, like how that all went down.
Yeah.
And
I would love to know, and I never will, but just how much of these sequels have like pure cash behind them, right? Because like I watched Finding Dory the other night. Made a shit ton of cash. People seem to really like it.
Number 1 movie of this year.
I was very excited because I love Finding Nemo, and I did not like Finding Dory at all. And I even suggested to Chris, we might be able to get Couch Tomato in here to do some kind of a comparison bonus round of the first Finding Nemo, because there's so many beats and emotional moments that it's just copying from the first one.
Yeah.
And so now I'm starting to worry about Incredibles 2, because even though Brad Bird is back, Brad Bird made Tomorrowland, which wasn't very good, And B, how much control does he really even have? Like, they would have made this without him if they wanted
It's
to.
a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good
Anyway.
question. I mean, yeah, it's I will withhold my opinion of Finding Dory. I have seen the movie twice now, but I will withhold my opinion of that movie until we come out with a Sins video for it, which will be coming soon.
Okay. I wonder if he liked it, Barrett.
I don't
know. Let's see what else. Okay, got to talk about two terrible stinkers that were in the top 10 of 2008.
Slumdog Millionaire.
We'll get to that, obviously. Number one is Twilight.
A terrible stinker indeed.
This okay, so this movie is horrible, and I think most people who have read the books, who I don't know, aren't teenage girls or whatever, think it's terrible too. Although I've heard some pretty good like explanations as to why that series is so popular. Like because it's a sort of a fantasy, like a plain girl like getting the hottest guy in class and everything. Can you see how that might like be an attractive thing for a lot of people who, you know, maybe don't consider themselves attractive or whatever. But anyway, beyond that subtext, these movies are fucking terrible. And so yeah, it started off a whole thing, and it actually like after a while like was getting, I think it was beating Harry Potter in opening weekend.
Oh, really?
Stuff, like for the year or whatever. Like it was at least rivaling it. Like it just didn't make any sense to me. It was whatever. But Twilight's the best one of that bunch, and it's not a good movie.
Were you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Team Edward.
Okay, cool.
I'm Team Bella.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be more Team Bella actually if you gave me the chance.
And probably one of the most egregious examples of overlamping a bedroom set. Because Bella's bedroom has like 25 lamps in it.
Wait a minute. I'm not Team Bella. I'm Team Anna Kendrick. She's the special one.
I forgot she was even in that movie.
Yeah.
She's the special one.
Yeah.
Why are we lusting after Bella when there's Anna Kendrick right next
That's
to
an
her?
excellent point.
Why not both?
We could lust after both.
Okay.
Sure.
Settled.
Another horrible movie that was somehow in the top 3 box office. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
You want to talk about a movie that pissed me off? It's this one.
Mm-hmm.
And there were plenty of signs as I'm watching it, like but there was still enough that I was like, okay, and then it's goddamn fucking aliens.
Yeah.
Goddamn aliens.
And mainly because of Lucas. Lucas wanted to make this. I think they had a Frank Darabont script at one time that everybody liked, and then Lucas came in because he's the power in this franchise. Said nope. We need to do something with aliens.
Man.
And then basically Spielberg said, all right, you're my friend. We'll do something with fucking aliens. And I won't like it, but here we go. And you can see it on the screen.
You can
see that on the screen. There's no heart to this thing at all.
No, it doesn't squander all of the goodwill that was, built up from the first 3 movies.
I don't think you could ever do that, really.
You can't, but it's aggressively horrible.
Yes, it is.
There's not really any redeeming qualities. Shia's now starting to get into annoying Shia.
Yeah.
The effects are weirdly awful.
They are.
The stunts are just over the top and silly. There's all those cracks about his age. There's the fucking nuke refrigerator, which is just the most egregious thing to happen.
And the
major
multiple
movies.
reaction shots of the gophers.
Yeah. They always had to have those, right? Yeah. This is one of those movies, where the effects like somehow like entreat on something. I don't know what it is. One day I'll come up with an explanation for what I feel during these things. Last Independence Day 2 came out, had this problem with the effects, where there is just some weird disconnect. Like I can't believe they allowed that.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
When you're watching this, don't you say, "Man, this just looks horrible. We can't publish this."
How does it get past their QC?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and it goes back to the time thing. We always talking about time, and I think The Dark Knight Rises, when we talked about that earlier, is another thing. Heath Ledger dies. We have to scrap all the things we were going to do, but we still have to hit that 2012 release date.
Yep.
and that's what you get when that happens. And Independence Day was no different. Oh my God. But anyway, horrible effects, horrible everything. Another movie I don't think is, do you like Hancock at all?
I'm kind of indifferent to it. I like Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
I love Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like it was a missed opportunity for Will Smith to really go over the top. And he doesn't get there, to me, as like a bad superhero. So I don't know. I mean, it's watchable, but it's certainly not a great movie, I don't think.
It's just took too hard a left turn. I think the first hour has plenty of promise. So the idea of Will Smith as a drinking, grouchy, not kind superhero, almost reluctantly having to improve his image, there's gold in that concept. And then they just veer completely away from it and go with this, she's his sister, former lover, whatever the fuck, alien thing.
Right.
And I just lose all interest.
This is one of those movies where the premise sort of backs itself into a corner, because what we want to see is Will Smith, the drunk superhero.
Yeah.
But you don't ever want to see him lose that. But that's part of the movie, is him becoming a more respectable superhero. And I feel like you lose a lot in translation. It backs itself in the corner because you really need to sort of find a way to make it where he's always that. And they've planned sequels forever. I don't know if they'll ever come out.
Yeah, I think they lost too much money.
Did they?
I think it was expected to be one of the biggest hits of the summer.
I know that it was fourth this year, and it made $624 million worldwide.
Okay, then.
So it made money, and they had sequels planned, but obviously Will Smith costs a lot. That's one of the big things about these movies. But yeah, I'm sure every movie would have started off with him like being drunk again and being horrible and all that other stuff, even though at the end of the last movie he's somewhat respectable. You know, it's funny how movies do that, but
I do like when they almost take a chapter out of the Mallrats playbook, because when he's having sex with that normal woman, he climaxes, he's putting holes in the ceiling and everything. I mean, you kind of expect that.
Yeah. What else, guys?
Well, let's talk Slumdog Millionaire for a minute.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's there.
It's a 2-hour-long music video for MIA's Paper Planes.
Okay. I would call it a movie of the week movie.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of heart, a lot of unbelievable bullshit.
Yeah.
And I forget about it almost as soon as I'm done watching it.
I think I like this movie better than you. And I know it is totally fucking unbelievable. Like, this movie is one of those where you're just like, fuck you. But all during the time that I'm saying that, I'm like actually enjoying it because it is so unbelievable, and it sort of wrestles that topic pretty well. Like, like it's a what if scenario that's got a 1 in a billion chance of happening. But here it is.
Well, that's probably because it's Danny Boyle. Like the charm that he brings to that movie, which is otherwise, I agree, like kind of a silly premise that's easily forgettable, but because of, and the colors in this are amazing, and the actors are great, and of course the music in there, including MIA's thing, is a lot of fun, and the J-Ho thing at the very end, that Bollywood style dance and number and everything. But I think it's him elevating this to where it won the Best Picture.
Yeah, it was Best Picture. Best Picture.
To where otherwise, like, another director would probably make this a completely forgettable movie.
Yeah, and it introduced us to Dev Patel, who's a very likable actor and everything. Frida Pinto, who's gorgeous.
Both good.
Yeah, and very good in this. But yeah, if you can't swallow that bullshit, then this movie is just gonna, like, you're gonna be wallowing in it by the end of it.
Well, and the movie tips you off early to that when he falls into the bottom of the outhouse.
So yep, that's true.
That's a rough scene.
Also, Gran Torino.
Yeah,
talk about some controversy. I mean, this is Clint Eastwood's, like, this is where he was just like, fuck it, man. I'm ready to just, like, I'm going to give every racial slur and everything in this. This is Get Off My Lawn.
Yeah.
This is all that, but a great movie. This is a fun.
Fantastic acting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It almost makes me miss Eastwood, the actor, which I haven't felt that in a long time, maybe since Unforgiven. And Bloodwork, of course.
Yes, of course, Bloodwork. We can't forget that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's trading on that character. I mean, he's basically going back to that kind of reserved, Unforgiven type of, like, you know, gnarly...
bastard?
Gnarly bastard, yes.
I read an article today where Tom Hanks was talking about working with Clint Eastwood on Sully and how, and he says basically, just like with horses, you can't yell at horses or you won't get them to do what you want. And Eastwood doesn't yell at his actors. The headline on the article, Tom Hanks says Clint Eastwood treats actors like horses.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious.
Come on.
That's the world we live in. Fucking clickbait, man.
Wow.
Come on.
Awesome.
Okay, so also in 2008, the Coen brothers came out with a movie that I think is close to rivaling The Big Lebowski as far as getting a cult status, and that's Burn After Reading.
Yep. I love this movie.
Yeah, I do too. And when I first watched it, I was having a really hard time understanding what was going on. It's one of those movies that sort of you have to watch it a couple of times because there's so many characters and so many of them interacting with each other.
Yeah.
But once you watch this movie a few times, you just get down with it. It's so good. So many great Brad Pitt is in. This is like the fun he was having in True Romance with this character right here. Fitness nut with not a brain at all,
but excited as fuck about everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's so manic. He's the reason I like this movie, and I didn't watch it for so long because it didn't really have like the best reputation when it came out. And I remember feeling like people were putting it along with Intolerable Cruelty or something. And then I finally watched it, and I was like, "This is fucking funny."
Oh yeah, totally.
What are people? What's their problem?
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, Malkovich, George Clooney is just this sex-obsessed State Department guy that works it into his character just perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, it's hilarious. And man, Frances McDormand, like all these characters, J.K. Simmons comes in as the CIA director and has these great lines at the end where he's like, well, what have we learned? Well, nothing. All right. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
And there's, this movie has one of the most creative ways of using curse words, like, because it's pervasive. This has got to be one of like the all-time cursiest movies. But like, you've got Brad Pitt when he calls into John Malkovich, is like, "Hey, are you concerned about the security of your shit?" And he goes crazy and everything. And then the other part, after the big crux of the movie happens, and Clooney's just reacting in horror, and he's like, "Oh my fuck." Yeah. I love it, man.
Yeah, it's sort of the same sort of thing that happened with The Big Lebowski. It's almost the same sort of, almost, like 10 years later. Like, so in 96, they came out with Fargo, got Best Picture, Best Director, all that, got all those awards. Big Lebowski comes out, does nothing at the box office. It has to hit video before it gets the huge cult following that it got. This is the same thing. No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Win Best Picture, win Best all this. But Burn After Reading comes out a year after.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't get the same kind of deal. And nobody gave it a chance. And now I think it's not going to be quite Lebowski levels, but
it should be up there. I think this movie is very underseen.
It is, definitely.
It is. How do you guys feel about the Lebowski spin-off prequel thing they're doing with John Turturro?
I mean, if it's got the Coens involved with it, I'll watch it. I'm sure.
I honestly don't know if it does or not. I just saw a picture of him in costume on the first day of filming.
Yeah, if it didn't have Coens involved, then I'll give it a chance, obviously. But I mean,
I'd also rather follow John Goodman's character on a spin-off than Turturro's.
Walter Sobchak.
God, he's so funny in that movie. All right, well, I want to talk about Ip Man for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen this.
This was my boy Donnie Yen. He's in the upcoming Rogue One as the blind Jedi guy you've seen in the trailer. Martial arts expert. He's in Iron Monkey, which is where I've discovered him. But Ip Man tells the story of the man who would go on to train Bruce Lee in real life. And basically, him versus everyone evil in the entire town leads to 5 or 6 amazing set pieces. I think my favorite Ip Man fight is in the second movie. So we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. And I talked about this movie before where he uses a feather duster to fight off this guy that's got a giant sword. I just love it. It's got charm. The choreography is killer. If you're a fan of the movies like The Raid or The Raid 2, I think you're going to see a lot that impresses you in Ip Man if you've never seen it. Should be on Netflix, was for years and years and years.
Yeah.
If not, call me. I'll loan you my DVD.
I recently got the trilogy on Blu-ray. I just haven't been able to pop it open and watch it yet.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it when you do, but it's not the kind of thing you should be like racing to do. It's not going to change your world, but you are going to, I think you will be impressed with Donnie Yen.
Yeah, well, I like a good action movie, so.
Yeah, and I did watch that scene because I think you sent it to us after we were talking about that feather duster. monster scene, and that was incredible. Like, even as well as you described it, you can't really put that into words. Like,
No.
you should definitely at least watch that YouTube clip.
And then that other scene from the second movie I sent you where he punches that dude in the face like 90 times. God, it's so fucking awesome.
It's great.
A movie that's definitely on that level is Taken. This sort of this is an important movie in a way, though, because this introduced us to the sort of the aging badass that Liam Neeson is in this and everything. Of course, you know, the husky voice on the telephone. I've got a certain particular set of skills and all that is what really leads to this movie's, like, you know, fame and everything. Of course, it has spawned 2 horrible sequels after this.
Well, and other movies like Unknown and like almost every movie he makes at this point is Taken.
Yeah, it's him, and it's taken on like the what was the flight movie?
The Gray.
The Gray was him was taken in the wilderness. Even though it really didn't have much to do with Taken. It was just like, it's him being a badass.
Yeah. You're talking about the one where he's an air marshal. Yeah, I don't remember what that's called.
Nonstop.
Nonstop.
Piece of shit.
We did a Sims video. I don't even remember the movie. But Nonstop is like that. You know, it's all him being just a badass. And like, he's like got this, you know, uncanny ability to just beat everybody's ass, even though he's like 60 years old and everything. But yeah, I mean, Taken was a surprise hit. It came out in January of that year, and it's a wasteland for movies. Most times, you know, you can't really, you know, schedule anything there and something take off, but that one did, and it, you know, sort of, you know, prove to people, hey, we can do January occasionally. We can do a good movie. Hold on a second. Fucking Taken came out in 2009, even though it says 2008. It didn't come out here until 2009. Now, technically, if you're in another country,
I think
came out. No, we've done that. I just want to say that again. We have another movie that came out technically in 2009 here, but everywhere else, just about, it came out in 2008. So I mean, it still stands as a 2008 movie. It's not like the ones where we see it's a festival and all that and whatever, but it did come out in January. Anyway, going to Cloverfield now.
Yeah.
Cloverfield is another, you know, now this one technically came out before Paranormal Activity. Even though we talked about that as a 2007 movie, it would later come out in 2009 for most of us. Cloverfield really sort of, I believe, started to set off this found footage thing.
Yeah.
And then Paranormal Activity was just sort of a continuation of that.
It was a really clever use of it.
Yeah, it was.
I thought this was a great concept, and I loved the movie, actually, but putting that in a world-ending crisis where you can only see how this crisis affects you from your perspective or from HUD's perspective, and putting it in New York and everything, there were a lot of things that were over the top and silly and that kind of thing. But I think it was a cool use in that genre.
Yeah.
Well, and just like the other successes in the found footage genre, like Blair Witch, it had an incredible marketing campaign.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
That did all this viral weirdness online to the point where we didn't know what that movie was, but we'd seen enough cool marketing, we were going to go watch that movie.
Yeah.
Famously had an attached trailer on Transformers, which didn't show what the title was or anything.
Oh, it was just the Bad Robot logo, wasn't it, that came up at the beginning?
I don't remember exactly what it may have been Bad Robot logo, and then maybe it showed a little bit. Actually, it was just the party.
Oh, really?
It was just everybody talking at the party and everything, and then at the end, it's like, this is going to be the best party ever, and it just cuts off, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then later on, they came out with the trailers that showed that it was a big monster movie and everything. When that monster shows up, it is amazing, I think. Like, it's, you know, like they're seeing like buildings blow up way far away, but they see debris start coming towards them.
Yeah.
I think that's the most effective part of the whole movie. I start to get a little bit sick of it that they're carrying this camera around because HUD he's not, it's TJ Miller.
Yeah.
He's not, he was tasked to go around and shoot the party and everything, but I feel like once all the shit goes down, that's when he's just like, fuck the camera or whatever. Thank God for us that he shot the movie so that we could see it. But I start getting tired of all the stuff where they're like, can't show anything because he's like ducking around corners and all that. And it's the whole like, let's keep the monster hidden and keep your imagination. I understand that. but I get tired of it after a while.
I think the most ridiculous thing to me in the whole movie is the skyscraper that falls leaning on the other one, and that's how they get across to save this girl. That's where I check out.
Yeah. But I overall, yes, I love Cloverfield. Now, of course, they made the not a sequel that wasn't ever supposed to be a sequel, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
And now it's going to be a universe.
Yeah. Everything's a universe now.
That's right.
All right, guys, what else?
All right. Well, I liked 2 animated movies that I don't know if you guys like: Kung Fu Panda and Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah.
All right, so I do like Kung Fu Panda quite a bit, and Horton Hears a Who I've only seen the one time.
And yeah, I don't love either of them so much that I'd be like, please go watch this. But I do think Kung Fu Panda is about the best fit Jack Black's ever going to have for like an animated movie.
Oh yeah,
he's perfect as Poe, and his humor and personality come through in just the right way. I don't need any of the sequel bullshit that comes later. But that first one I think is a really charming, self-contained, a fun adventure.
I agree. I really enjoyed it, and it's one of those weird cases of a movie making a lot of money and the sequel not really taking a lot of time to come out, but the sequel made money.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the smash that the first one was, and it's weird because everybody loved that first one.
It's like How to Train Your Dragon. Same thing happened there.
Same deal. Yeah.
It's almost like DreamWorks is doing something wrong with their sequels to hit animated originals. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And it was the first time I really felt great about a DreamWorks movie, too.
Yeah.
Kung Fu Panda was the first time I felt like they actually did something without, like, let's see how many pop culture references we can stick into this thing and for the adults and everything. This is really a really fun movie, and I love there's a lot of great voices in here.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Black, Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan,
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman is amazing in it. Really fun. And Horton Hears Who, like I said, I've only seen it the one time. I remember enjoying it though.
Yeah, and it's Michael Scott, whose name I always forget. Steve Carell. And Jim Carrey are the 2 main voices in this. Again, really charming adaptation of a Dr. Seuss book that I loved as a kid. Might be why I like the movie a little bit more than everybody else. But I remember thinking, well, Jim Carrey did a really good job there.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Valkyrie?
I never saw it.
It
didn't get very good reviews.
I actually like this movie. It is a Bryan Singer with Christopher McQuarrie. It's sort of a reteam of Usual Suspects. Tom Cruise plays a guy who's going to try to kill Hitler.
Oh.
And now it's not great. It's not going to change your life when you watch it or anything. But I do really like. There's a huge cast in this. Kenneth Branagh's in it.
Yeah.
Hey, we got one in.
We got a Kenneth Branagh reference in. But a huge cast full of, and it's just interesting to see them. How are they planning to kill this guy who's essentially untouchable? And it's very suspenseful. There's the scene in question because we know that Hitler didn't get assassinated. I can tell you that it's a failed attempt.
Hey, I saw Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, wait a minute. That's right. He got shot up in that theater. But it's very suspenseful because. Yeah, you can't do this and miss, or else it's you're in terrible danger, and everybody who helped you do it is in terrible danger, and it all involves basically a bomb in a box at a table where he's talking and everything, and if they don't it's one of those where you're just letting it go, what's going to happen and everything. I really enjoyed it, and I think that at least it should be given a little bit more thought if you've never seen it before.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
What else?
How about Yes Man?
Yeah.
Nice.
Jim Carrey had a decent year. Not one of his best, but almost a return to form.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
Horton, and then the Yes Man brought back the team behind Bruce Almighty. And comes close in some moments to recapturing that magic. Doesn't succeed as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Most memorable to me for that scene where he's pulled an all-nighter and he gets out of the car and like 20 Red Bulls come flying out and he's talking so fast and it's very funny. Zooey Deschanel's in this. She's very charming. This I think was before her TV show had started or right around that time. Bradley Cooper's in this as one of the asshole friends. I think it's fun. I think it's charming and enjoyable. It's just not great.
Yeah, this is classic Jim Carrey high concept type of movie. Perfect vehicle for him. At this point, though, he's not in the 90s and he's not the star he was and everything. But the very idea that you would say yes to everything and never say no and everything, of course, leads to all these, fun little scenarios and everything. And I think at the very least, the scenario itself is fun to watch.
It is. It's a little Liar Liar reminiscent in that regard, because he's made... In Liar Liar, it's somebody else's wish. He really can't do anything. And here he's made a choice. But it is that subtle change to how you're going to live your life that causes all these exploding problems.
Yeah, there's something familiar to that, where I think that's why this movie is a fun experience, because there's something... You mentioned the high concept Jim Carrey. You put him in a situation that allows him to explore his wackiness.
Yep.
Like, you got to say yes to everything, or with Liar Liar, or with Bruce Almighty, where he's God, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When you let him run free in those parameters, there's something just, comforting and funny and just recognizable about it enough to where it's enjoyable.
Definitely. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Mm-hmm.
And For Christmas.
That's about
David
right.
Fincher, this is one of his harder to watch movies.
Yeah.
That's a very good way to put it.
Another great concept, and it's is it F. Scott Fitzgerald? It is F. Scott Fitzgerald. To put Brad Pitt in this thing where he slowly becomes younger as he ages, is something that is interesting to. I mean, it's a great scenario and everything, but there's something about it. What is it? Is it its length? Is it that there's nothing really interesting and explored?
Kind of bored me.
Yeah. It's kind of. I mean, this movie made tons of money too.
Yeah, it's almost 3 hours long.
Yeah. And I don't know what went wrong there, but I guess for some people this is a pretty good movie, but in fact 7.8 on IMDb.
Oh my. All right.
But not from us.
Here's another great movie, Man on Wire.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
it's my jam.
This is so thrilling, and I'm just going to set aside and make believe that the Joseph Gordon-Levitt version doesn't exist.
It doesn't fucking need to.
No, it doesn't. And this is so thrilling. And I was thinking about why I like it so much, because obviously it's amazing. It's the walk between the Twin Towers back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And as Philippe Petit is this Frenchman's name, the reason this hits me is his personality.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like he's just a great congenial dude.
And he's a dreamer.
Yeah.
I think that's why this works. We don't understand the dream, but we understand having a dream.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this guy's dream is to walk across a wire between the two towers.
So ballsy.
It is ballsy. And I've told you guys this before. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast, but the walk, the Zemeckis version with Joseph Gordon-Levitt is so unnecessary, and it even embellishes what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it tries to make you feel magic with effects, but the fact that the towers are gone now makes that entire scene feel fake.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Whereas Man on Wire, all the footage is from when the towers were there.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
there are camera stills from the ground, black and white pictures of this motherfucker on the wire really doing it. And you don't need to fake it. You don't need effects. That's goddamn amazing.
What I really get into with this documentary is the little details, like how many runs they had to make to get into the tower and hide from guards and all that, and then do their measurements and all this and try to figure it out. The really very scary thing about the way the World Trade Center towers were positioned was that he couldn't get a straight line.
Right.
And they also sway.
Yeah.
You don't think about that with buildings swaying in the breeze, but they do ever so slightly. And even the slightest amount is going to affect your walk in some way. And he thought, though, I think there's a point where he thinks there's no way he can do it because there's no way to actually get that line straight, and there's no way to also account for those swaying buildings and everything. But Oh my God! Yes, this is as thrilling as documentaries get.
Yeah, it
it
does.
is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And the swaying is why I don't go up in big buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we went to New York a couple years ago, you went up to the top of the New World Trade Center.
Yeah.
I did not. I went around and looked at the memorial, which was very moving. But I can't deal. Ever since college, I went up in the top of the Sears Tower and just clung to the inner wall next to the elevator. Well, because you can feel that fucking building swaying, and it is creepy.
It's
You
funny.
can see the water in the toilet actually like moving.
I don't have a terrible fear of heights, but yeah, like there's been a couple of things that happened in both the Sears and this New World Trade Center. The Sears has like a part where you can like walk out.
Yeah.
And there's a glass box
Yeah,
and
so
whatever.
much nope.
And like you see millions of people go in there and they're doing like handstands and all that type of shit and everything. And I worked myself up. I finally went and did it and took pictures and everything. But there's that feeling that it's gonna break. It's gonna crack, man. It's gonna make you fall down. And in the New World Trade Center, they put you in this like place where you watch this presentation. And then after the presentation is over, the screen comes up and you start seeing the real like where you are at that point.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, we went way up, didn't we? Holy crap.
Well, in that presentation, you can find video of it online. It's amazing. When you're going up in the elevator, it basically shows you time lapse of New York growing around you as you're going up the floors, and you can even see the trade centers pop up, and a couple seconds later, they're gone.
Yeah, they disappear.
So yeah, it's pretty. You can find that video online. It's pretty moving.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another recommend. If you haven't seen that, and if all you
absolutely.
know is The Walk, then watch that.
Yeah.
What else on here, guys?
Did you guys ever see The Other Boleyn Girl?
Yeah, I did.
It's
Don't remember a thing about it.
It's luscious to look at. Like the colors pop, the outfits are all real elaborate. It's Natalie Portman, Scarlett Johansson, Eric Bana. Pretty forgettable movie, but it's one of those once you've gone 10 minutes in, you don't want to stop watching because you just want to see what's going to happen. It's about Anne Boleyn and her sister, who took turns being married to the king. But not one that I would say go watch it, but it's one that I was like, it's not as bad as I expected.
Yeah, I just don't remember much about it at all. I just remember the colors is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is all I really remember about it. Okay, the continuation of M. Night Shyamalan's awful career, The Happening.
The plants are killing us.
Oh man.
Don't need to talk about much about this. Mark Wahlberg's performance is an oddity, though. It's fun to watch. Just
What is this intentional, do you think?
I don't know, man. That's how weird it is, right?
There's some people that actually defend this by saying it was intentionally a B movie.
I'm just gonna say, if it is, it's again, it's kind of that Room and Birdemic type of thing. If it is intentional, then it is fucking genius, because you have to have no awareness whatsoever that what you're making is bad.
Yeah.
And even if you do enjoy it on that level, I don't know what the point is.
No, I mean you got to be on some heavy drugs to like this film.
Yeah.
What kind? You got access?
Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess it has in some ways become kind of a cult type of movie because of that. I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters, so maybe I'll give it another
I watched
whirl.
it again fairly recently, and it's as bad as I remembered.
Yeah,
if not worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially it's one of those movies that's just you're sitting there. What's happening? Oh, fucking plants. Okay. Shit. A horror movie that I really enjoyed, The Strangers. I don't know if I don't know if a lot of people enjoy it the way I do. Was it Jonathan who says he didn't like this movie?
I don't know, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I shouldn't say it's a lot of fun because it's actually genuinely scary as shit.
Yeah, it is.
Which one is this?
This is with
it's Liv Tyler, and there's a couple that get into a new house, and then as the night falls, they start seeing strangers in the
in masks.
Yeah, in masks out in the yard and everything, and of course they infiltrate and start terrorizing and everything, and I think it's very effective. I think it's a really good horror movie.
What I like about this is that they explain away the cell phone caveat of almost all horror films by dude. I think one guy, his battery runs down, and one guy can't get service and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we acknowledge that we have these, but they're just useless in this situation.
Yeah, I know a guy who's like, man, cell phones kind of ruin horror movies because now there's always a chance. They always have to address them.
Yeah.
Every single time, like, oh, they're replaced with no service, or the battery's out, or whatever. But I thought The Strangers was pretty effective.
Yeah.
Another horror movie I kind of liked that year was The Ruins.
Oh,
yes.
Jenna Malone, right?
Yeah.
And it's about a group of kids who are down in Central America somewhere, and they hear about this ruined pyramid, and hush, hush, and don't ever go there. So, of course, they do. And, like, right after they get there, these natives come out of nowhere and kill one of them.
Yeah.
And so they run up to the top of the pyramid thing, and that's when it becomes a Killer Vine movie.
Yeah.
Some of the most make me squirm in my seat visuals I've ever seen are those vines growing out of people's legs and shit. Not an A+, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't expect much from this movie at all. It kind of reminded me of that Perfect Getaway movie.
Yeah.
Like in the way that I wasn't expecting anything. I just fired it up one night because I was a projectionist and you can do that. And
I really like that Perfect Getaway movie.
Yeah, I
we
do
should
too.
talk a lot about that next week.
We will. But it reminds me of that a little bit because you're just like, I'll give this a shot or whatever. And I think you just relax when you watch a movie like that.
Yeah, it's got a great look to it. It's got a very immediate. I don't know how else to describe it. It's got a lot of immediacy in the shots.
Yeah. Well, and it's a very. I mean, they're on the top of a pyramid, but it's very close quarters kind of set and action.
I'm going to start running them down here. There were a lot more comedies, obviously. Semi-Pro, I've talked about that a little. I think we've talked about that a little bit. Another Will Ferrell sports comedy that was coming. There was like a ton of these coming out. This one's not good at all.
No.
I mean, it has some. I think it has maybe 2 or 3 moments in it.
Yeah.
A movie I really like, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, is Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Oh yeah,
I have seen.
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
You've seen
it a
that?
lot.
Love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Michael Cera really
Mike-
gets to shine in this movie.
Yeah. Just a really entertaining movie. I wasn't expecting much from that either, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith came out with Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which, man, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And it just kind of it fails. It's got clear moments of comedy that I love in it. And it's got all these Apatow type characters. Seth Rogen, it's got Elizabeth Banks, it's got Craig Robinson, it's got all these people. But man, there's something just to me, it's just a little bit too much about their budding romantic relationship, I think, kind of gets in the way of it. The actual porn scenes that they're shooting or whatever has some gross out stuff in it.
In terms of a concept, though, I think it's ahead of its time because you look at where we're at now and how many people are performing sex online themselves to earn cash. But I don't think that was going on so rampantly back when this movie came out, where this is just a bunch of average people strapped for cash who go, well, let's make some porn and we'll make money through porn.
Yeah.
We know porn.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie is Seth Rogen saying, he's like, if I found out one of my high school classmates did porn, I would go and buy that immediately. All that.
It's got a few Kevin Smithish moments, like when they're filming in the coffee shop and this drunk dude just walks in.
Yeah.
And, like a cup of coffee. Like, no, man, and they're in the middle of screwing.
Right.
Like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Funny.
But I mean, overall, it's got some moments in it. Whatever. I felt like I wanted more out of that movie. 7 Pounds we briefly talked about last week. It's a very dour Will Smith movie.
Yeah,
and it's got an ending that will surprise you a little bit, I guess. But it's also just like, oh my God, I don't feel good about myself.
What about Vicky, Cristina, Barcelona?
Love that movie.
Do you really?
Never saw it.
I have a strong take on this movie.
You hate it?
I hate this movie. This is the adolescent fantasies of an old guy.
That's true.
Isn't that every Woody Allen movie?
No, this gets taken up to a whole different level because He plays on every stereotype there is on women. He's got the feisty Spaniard. He's got the blonde girl that's into romance and sex, and the brunette that's all straight-laced and everything, but really wants romance. And it's got Javier Bardem as this prototypical European Spanish guy. And it is no more revealed than when they're in the cafe and Javier Bardem comes up to him. He's like, I would like to take you to an island. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? We're not going to an island with you. We just met you and that kind of thing. And he's like, well, what we'll do, we'll eat, we'll drink, we'll make love. And they're like, no, what? No, which one of us? And he's like, maybe both. It's okay. And they're like, why would you think that this would happen? He's like, why not? We are alive. You are beautiful. And it works.
Oh, wow.
It works.
Wow.
They go with him on this thing, and he screws both of them.
That's like that kid in Independence Day Resurgence who's like, so you must be the pilot China sent. Maybe you'd like to go hang out, fall in love.
Right.
And I wrote a sin we cut, but I wrote a sin there that said they're going to end up together because Hollywood thinks this is how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna say that yes, while that should never work, that works. There are people who do that.
Well, if you're Javier Bardem, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
well,
it's just...
I don't think you even have to be Javier Bardem. I mean, like, you see, like, you see some people, man, that shouldn't have any chance at girls like that who somehow make it happen.
Well, and the other thing about this, it's fucking Woody Allen's dialogue being crammed into 20-somethings' mouths of it drives me crazy of them saying, I want to go to bed with you, or I want to make love to you, or that kind of thing. Who the fuck says that now? Nobody says that.
No.
All right.
I agree.
It's stupid.
Angry Bear.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but it's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously he had a little bit of a thing for Scarlett Johansson, like anybody would. And he had this stretch of movies where she was in everything he did.
Yeah.
And everything. And he shot her very hornily in like a lot of movies, especially in Match Point.
Yes.
All right. Oh my God. Righteous Kill. I'm going to mention this movie just because how bad it is. It was an attempt because Heat, even though De Niro and Pacino are both in Heat, there's not there's just one scene. And even that one scene, they're not really framed together or whatever. So they finally 13 years later come out with another movie. Righteous Kill is such an awful movie. Oh, it's so bad.
All I remember is I hated it.
Yeah. Well, there's a point where Al Pacino says, he tells De Niro, that kill was righteous.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh, so you did it then, huh? You're the guy. You're the guy behind the guy. Body of Lies, Ridley Scott directing Leonardo DiCaprio and Russell Crowe in a movie.
Saw it once.
And I saw it once and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it just went the route of Spy Game in my mind. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I didn't like it too much. And with those two actors going on, you'd think you get something a lot better. Kind of like American Gangster with Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Like, you just kind of thought that would be a little bit better movie, and this is just sort of Ridley Scott's in kind of a funk here. I think there's just like a lot of these type of movies coming out in this era for him.
Yep.
But an interesting little Quick and the Dead reunion there, DiCaprio and Russell Crowe.
Oh yeah. I don't even think they share screen time though, because like Leo's halfway around the world.
No, yeah.
They talk on the phone the whole movie. I think that's why I hated it.
Yeah. I want to talk about two movies with race in the title. Speed Racer.
Oh yeah.
The Wachowski brothers basically kind of falling down that same M. Night Shyamalan track. The huge movie that everybody liked, and then sort of starting to fall down here. Every movie that come out, there's some people who love Speed Racer.
They went for it. It has a fan base.
Yeah,
it really does.
There are a lot of people who love Speed Racer. I'm shocked at this because I could not stand it.
No, it was like Scott Pilgrim with none of the good.
Yeah,
right.
Just a headache.
Death Race came out. Also, the remake of Death Race 2000 with Jason Statham in it. Joan Allen has one of the all-time classic lines where she says something like, I'll show this guy where to shit on the sidewalk or something like that. Makes no sense whatsoever. But that she says that in the middle of a big action scene or whatever.
Oh, she can show me where to shit on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I'm totally down with that. Clint Eastwood had 2 movies this year. Changeling, another good one. I like Changeling.
I like
quite
this movie a lot.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie loses a kid, and then the cops come back with a kid that's definitely not hers, and she has to sit there and like say, "Look, this isn't the kid. My real kid's out there," and everything, and not being taken seriously as a woman back in the day and everything. It's a terrifying kind of movie.
It really is.
There's another movie called The Changeling that came out in the 70s with George C. Scott, by the way, a really good horror movie if you ever want to see that. When Changeling came out, I was like, are they remaking that? I hope not, And but no, it's a completely kind of different movie. The Reader.
Oh yeah. I like that movie.
Yeah. Kate Winslet also always good and everything.
Now she's associated with Nazis, right?
Yeah, she is, and she's hiding out.
Yeah, and this is a kid that's actually like reading books to her and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they turn it into a romance.
Yeah,
and everything. Yeah, it's really. I mean, she's great in everything.
She's just terrific, and she's one of my favorites of all time. What were you about to say, Jeremy? You had something on your...
I was going to say, did you guys ever see W?
Oh, yeah.
I did. I don't remember much about it, though.
I think it won the Oscar for most instances of the word bushy. All I remember, I like Josh Brolin a lot, and I think he's good in this movie, but I think they went way overboard on the bushy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Oliver Stone sort of trying to win back his old, I do movies about presidents and politics and everything, but a little bit more campy than usual, too.
A little bit, yeah, and yeah, everybody's just maybe dialed up to 11, and it should have stayed at 10.
Well, it's silly because Will Ferrell did his You're Welcome America thing, impersonating George Bush, which was hilarious.
Yeah,
and I think HBO did an airing of that.
Yeah, it was very well received.
Milk came out. Sean Penn, another great performance there.
Won the Oscar.
Yeah. There's a scene, and I can't really replicate it here, but there's a scene where Sean Penn's walking through his office, and he's going down the hallway, and he's basically introducing all the people that work for him and everything. It's just a master class in acting, I believe, because he goes through a gamut of different motions and stuff with just stuff that he does with his face and his arms and everything. But yeah, very enjoyable movie.
What about the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, we skipped that during the comic book stuff that we were talking about.
Another Ed Norton movie where there were rumors off the set that he was hard to work with.
Yeah.
Do you like this movie?
No, I don't like any of the Hulk movies, but I like the character enough. I'll keep watching them.
It's weird, right? Like the Ang Lee version is better directed than this is, but I still think this is a better movie than Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit faster paced,
and
I like Eric Bana, but I like Edward Norton a lot better.
Yeah,
but yeah, this is basically rehash. Even though it's picks up right after he does the experiment on himself and everything, and it introduces William Hurt as a character that we're going to see later and everything. Yeah, I didn't like it too much, but it does.
It's not great, but Tim Roth's character, who's also not great, he's pretty one-dimensional as being the angry, power-hungry, military guy.
Yeah,
but he just seethes.
He's good
the
at
entire thing. He's great at seething, and it's almost like what I hated about the Planet of the Apes performance, the Tim Burton one. Yeah. I love Tim Roth anyway, but he's just so kinetic and angry in this movie that I like it for whatever reason.
The House Bunny, I didn't like that too much. Anna Faris was becoming a producer at this point, and this was a big hit for her and everything. But man, the movie I didn't like.
My wife loves it. It's also got Emma Stone,
and who's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, and the girl from American Idol, who's an actress now.
Is it Kat McPhee?
Yes, Kathryn McPhee.
So there's that. Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian came out. We talked about a little bit about that, and one of the others. Wanted came out.
Yeah.
Man, that's a big miss.
That movie has a following. That movie has fans.
It's basically The Matrix.
Only a loom is telling you what to do and who to kill.
Right.
A sentient loom.
Right.
And the movie has curving bullets.
Yeah.
I've said enough.
Right. I was really hoping for this movie.
Yeah. It's got its charms.
It does.
James McAvoy, By the way, his accent in this is very not good. He obviously had not perfected his American accent, but like, I think there's some things to like.
Well, and Morgan Freeman at the end, where he's like, "Well, you can kill all these motherfuckers," or whatever. Whatever he says at the end is hilarious. Revolutionary Road got DiCaprio and Kate Winslet back together, and it was Sam Mendes and Michael Shannon got nominated for this. He's great in this. Movie itself, oh my God.
Yeah.
Hard to watch. Mamma Mia came out. Really the only thing about this, I told that story when we interlocked The Dark Knight. We had 7 auditoriums with Dark Knight and would have done an 8th. But we had to show Mamma Mia, and because 2 people showed up for Mamma Mia, we had to show it.
Did you like this at all?
I never saw it. Didn't look at all like it was up my alley.
I mean, I've got a soft spot for ABBA.
Yeah,
that may be part of the problem.
And it's engaging. Meryl Streep is good in it.
I got my ABBA fix from Muriel's wedding.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. But I mean, they do it justice. I mean, I've never seen the play, but apparently it's just, insanely box office numbers. So they do a good job. I think it's charming.
Pierce Brosnan is terrible in this.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard. Some of these song numbers are hard to watch, but yeah, for the most part, it's a fun movie or whatever. Another great crime movie that came out, In Bruges.
Yeah.
Love this movie.
You got to watch it with the captions on.
Yes, you do.
Or watch it like
Holy
multiple times.
shit, do you have to watch it with the captions on.
Talk about thick accents.
Yeah.
But once you break through that, this movie is fucking funny.
Yeah, it's so good. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ray Fiennes shows up real like briefly. Yeah, watch the movie with subtitles. This is another recommend. Quantum of Solace is Daniel Craig's worst Bond. The worst Daniel Craig Bond, I think.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's basically acts as a sequel to Casino Royale because it's a continuation of and Bond movies never do that.
A boring sequel.
Yeah,
this has got to be one of the worst movie titles ever.
Yeah,
Quantum of Solace. Give me a break.
Right, and I think at this point that may have been the last any short story title that Ian Fleming had. That might have been the last one, or that's when they started making them up. But they have now officially run out of Ian Fleming titles to actually title Bond movies now.
Interesting.
So, the resurrection of Rambo happened. Which just it's just a super violent movie. Like one of the most violent movies you'll ever see. 10,000 BC was Roland Emmerich being shitty again.
Yeah. Fuck that movie.
Yeah. Definitely maybe. Bolt is another movie that came out that was a Disney before they were really getting the good stuff and everything.
It was a big hit though.
Was a big hit.
Miley Cyrus and John Travolta in the same movie.
Yeah. But it wasn't very good. We mentioned Bronson. I talked about Bronson a few podcasts ago. Sex Drive, which I know both you and I like a lot.
Fun.
That's a fun little small
very
comedy.
Funny movie.
Sex and the City. They came out with a movie version of the hit series and everything. It's a terrible fucking movie.
Yeah, it is.
It's terrible, but it was a huge hit. I remember I was in New York at the time this movie came out. It sold out like every weekend show in advance.
Wow.
Like at my theater, everybody's theater was sold out on Friday and Saturday night before it even came out. I mentioned Defiance. Have you ever seen that movie? That's Daniel Craig as well. Edward Zwick movie. It's it's like World War II.
I saw that come up
type of movie, and I've only seen it once. It was good. I mean, just want to bring it up. Yeah, you mentioned 21, and the reason I'd bring that movie up is that I actually read the book before this came out. Bringing Down the House is what it's called. It's a fantastic book. It tells you exactly how
it's based on a true story, right?
Based on a true story of MIT students who went and they counted cards in Vegas.
Fucking awesome.
And in the book, it tells you in more detail. Obviously, in the movies, they have to sort of get rid of all the smarter stuff because it's hard to follow and a lot. But when you read the book, you see, okay, I understand the process to the point that I actually want to go out and play some cards now. And but the movie, of course, it kind of tells you what's going on and everything, and you kind of know, but some of the coolest stuff in the book isn't in the movie. So
it's got a great use of MGMT's Time to Pretend at the beginning.
Yeah.
Too. It was everywhere that year. It was a oh man, it
was in the Sex Drive. It was in the Sex Drive trailer.
Yeah.
The other one that I ran past was Let the Right One In.
Oh, I had that down, but I'm so gun shy now and get the dates wrong. I didn't want to bring it up because that's a foreign film.
Yeah. But I love that movie, and I even like the remake of it.
Yeah, this is one of those rare cases where America pounced on a successful foreign film and then made another good one with Let Me In.
Yeah.
They're both good.
Yeah. You mentioned a few a minute ago.
Oh, Schenectady, New York, or however it is that you can pronounce it.
It's and it's sort of a play on Schenectady or whatever. But like, this is a movie, man. I had people who just love the shit out of this.
Oh yeah.
I saw it the one time. That was enough for me. I was tired, very exhausted by the end of it.
Oh, that's not because this is Charlie Kaufman, right?
Yeah, Charlie Kaufman directs, writes, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it. You'd think, the elements are there. Catherine Keener is in it.
Didn't Charlie Kaufman have something to do with Be Kind, Rewind? And wasn't that this year?
No, that was
Michel.
Michel Gondry.
So connected.
There's a little bit of a connection there, but I think it is 2008 when that came out.
It was on my list, but again, I've gotten a bunch of them wrong this week.
But that's a fun movie.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Most stuff is always fun to watch.
Yeah, where they're sweeting movies, but they don't have the actual movie, so they make their cheapo versions of it. And then later, those cheapo versions actually become great hits in the community and everything.
People start to love them.
Yeah, and they start making more and more. It's not a great movie, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned a couple.
Rachel Getting Married?
Oh, yeah, and I haven't seen that still to this day. Have you seen it?
It's been a while. I think it was, Anne Hathaway plays a pretty raging asshole.
Yeah. She's terrible in this movie, yeah. But I haven't seen it. She got nominated for it, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Eagle Eye, I mentioned that. It's not a good movie, really, but that's another Shia LaBeouf. Basically, Steven Spielberg was like just shepherding Shia LaBeouf like all these movies back then, and he was a producer on this. And man, I don't like Eagle Eye.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I guess Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. We should mention.
Hellboy 2.
I kind of like this better than the first one.
I kind of do too.
I think a lot of people do.
Really?
I think that was the general consensus, was they got more right the second time. But I think they didn't have David Hyde Pierce the second time.
Yeah.
And that disappointed me because I love it.
It's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's kind of lose a little continuity there when you don't get the same.
David Hyde Pierce has such a recognizable voice.
Frost Nixon came out. That's another sort of, oh man, it got nominated for Best Picture. Another Ron Howard movie that I just can not love for some reason.
Well, this is another one where you've got the tapes, and the interview in real life. I don't know if they had turned it into a formal documentary.
The thing about the real tapes is that there's a lot of boring shit in that, and this part that this whole movie was made about is like a brief part of the entire thing. They make a big deal about it and everything. But it's another movie. I'm like, man, I really want to. Good performances. You got Michael Sheen and Frank Langella. They're both really good. Frank Langella pulls off a really good Nixon. But
not an over the top campy way. He plays it really straight, like the mannerisms, and not really relying on the voice.
A movie that tried to have some have a sort of a Rashomon kind of feel to it, and ended up I think it ended up failing. Vantage Point came out. It's Dennis Quaid, and it's got
Jack from Lost.
Matthew Fox. Forrest Whitaker's in it. But I remember seeing trailers for this, and it tells you exactly what happens. Like, it's like, okay, we're going to see this from all different vantage points. That's what the fucking movie's called. And I remember watching this with some theater employees, and some theater employees brought some of their friends to watch this. And like, there's a point where like it shows you all the stuff that happens, and then it goes back to the beginning. And twice it happens, and somebody turns to one of the theater employees' friends, turns to him, and he goes, "Confusing." And I'm like, the fuck, man? It's not confusing. It's bad, but it's not confusing. And I'm sure we're missing something, but fuck it. Let's vote.
We got all the important ones.
Yeah. Fuck it. Let's vote. Today's order is Chris, Barrett, and Jeremy.
I feel like it's always me going last. And I like that because I both have all the power and none of it.
Ooh.
I don't know what I'm talking
That's
about.
deep.
Let's just Chris, Barrett, and Jeremy.
The magic loom has determined this order.
Oh, man. This is actually a tough one, but I'm going to go to The Dark Knight on this. Just expertly made, still the best comic book movie there is, and by a mile. And it's one of those movies that when it came out, people were actually trying to figure out if this was on the par of The Godfather. That's how good it was. And you know, really just for the opening 20 minutes alone for me is something that just draws me in. The music, that one note that's being played, and just how that all goes down, and how everything is just the ball gets so rolling on that. The movie never stops really from that point. It's just super excellent. I'm going to get my vote.
What's interesting about The Dark Knight is that Aaron Eckhart's performance is great, but he gets overshadowed by almost everybody, you know? Him and Gary Oldman, I've never really bought Gary Oldman's performance as Jim Gordon just because he's just so British to me and such a bad dude that this is such a weird juxtaposition. Anyway, my pick is The Dark Knight too. It is a perfect comic book movie, and it is one of the best movies I've seen in the last 20 years or so.
That Hong Kong sequence, I've never seen a movie that made me want to go half around the world just to see a city. Because Hong Kong looks insane. And I'd love to see it at night. And you know what? I had this whole apology prepared to Dark Knight fans because I'm voting The Wrestler. But Dark Knight is going to win. I feel a lot better voting The Wrestler now because we did not let down the Batman fans, but I got to give my little Aronofsky shot out there with the vote. I don't know. This movie just affected me in a really, really deep way.
No, it's a great pick.
And so, A Dark Knight. That's a good one.
Yeah.
One
great
round.
year. Great year.
Great year. It obviously it took forever for us to get through all of it. We had to talk about a lot of these movies in detail and everything. And obviously there's some minor ones in there that you feel like you need to punch in there because they don't get their due because it's such a great year. But you're talking, in The Dark Knight, the scene when Hong Kong and everything. This is the first time I remember loving IMAX.
Oh yeah,
because the IMAX, obviously there's 6 or 7 scenes where it actually uses IMAX. The opening robbery scene, the Hong Kong scene, all that. But when he's flying out of there with the dude, and it's like, and everything. You're just like, yeah, man, I'm all in this movie. It's so good.
So good.
All right, so we got some Q&A.
We do.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Okay, here's the first one. Do you think unexpected violence or a surprise gun can take away from certain movies? Adaptation mentions this, but there's some other movies where violence or a gun really wasn't needed, and they give a couple of examples of it. But basically, what scenes stand out to you where the violence just seemed unnecessary and just took you out of it?
Okay, so I mentioned 2 movies here. I felt like Drive's violence was abhorrent. Like, it took me out quite a bit. And I can take pretty much anything in movies. I'm very desensitized to it. But geez, the violence in Drive is way over the top. It's, we're seeing heads getting crushed in and all that type of stuff. Kind of like the Game of Thrones and, all that type of stuff. You don't expect it. And maybe that's the power that it has, is you don't really expect this guy who they've hinted at as a gangster and everything doing this type of stuff because he feels so sweet during the entire thing. But then once the violence starts, you're like, geez, man, this is just so much.
Yeah.
I also mentioned Rounders, not because there's a lot of people dying in it or whatever, but the character of Grandma is always doing something like a little bit over the top in the violence. Edward Norton, who's a dick, by the way, deserves a lot of this stuff. But there's a part in there where Edward Norton says, like, "Ha, you've been rolling fags in the town again, haven't you?"
Yeah.
And he the guy goes over and just punches him in the stomach and the kidneys and in the bathroom. And Edward Norton never, ever stops. He just keeps on.
He doesn't shut up.
And then there's another part later on when they go visit him, and he's like, shh, and he's got a dog over. You got to catch him in the act or whatever. And you hear this, whatever, because he's done something to the dog. And this is one of those that just kind of like, you don't need that, really. But anyway, those are two examples.
The one that stood out to me was actually in a movie that we just talked about in Burn After Reading. Because
when he punches him in the car.
No. It's when it's in the middle of a campy, fun, highbrow, like quick firing dialogue movie. And as soon as you see George Clooney and Brad Pitt in the same scene, he blows his fucking head off.
Yeah.
And it is not shy about the guts and brain bits and disgustingness that it shows on the wall. And because he goes back upstairs and like checks on him. And there's this moment of what's supposed to be suspense where he's like, is he still alive and all that stuff? But he's dead as fuck.
Yeah.
Like there's no doubt about it. And that was the only like part of that really, because they don't go over the top. Like John Malkovich kills a dude with a hatchet in this movie, but they don't show that shit. They show like the brain being blown out. But that was a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'll just throw out Kill Bill as a token answer because I've talked about that movie's violence bothering me before. But I'm going to go with The Patriot, and it's because you said hatchet. Because there's that scene where they make off with his son, and he grabs his two younger sons and gives them rifles and runs ahead on the trail and sets up guns, and the three of them, basically him, take out all these British soldiers. The last one runs away. Mel Gibson runs him down and hits him with that hatchet about 22 times more than is necessary. And even if you're trying to show this is the old wartime animal coming out, I still only need like 5 hatchet swings. I don't need all that I get. And then they show you the body from like a top angle after that, and it seems out of place in a movie that is ultimately kind of about chess, charming chess between these guys and the British. It always felt a little bit way too over the top.
Yeah.
This
is going to be a fun one. What are some of your favorite jaw-dropping moments in movies? Man, where do you start on this?
There are a lot, obviously. And one I'm going to mention because I don't think very many people have seen this movie. But it comes sort of unexpected because the movie itself isn't like great or anything, but We Own the Night has a fantastic car chase scene in it. It's mainly just the way the sound is. It's just a rainy street. It's dark and, it sets the atmosphere very well. Joaquin Phoenix is in a car. Robert Duvall, his dad, is in another car. And the bad guys just show up sort of, and there's no music accompanying it. There's nothing. They just come up, and when they shoot their guns, it's not like, that type of thing. It's just like, that type of thing. And like you just see the guns firing, and you see the like smoke or whatever, but it's not like over the top, bullet sounds and everything. And then you see the car move up to where Robert Duvall is, and you're just seeing Joaquin Phoenix behind the wheel, and he's looking at what's happened. And Duvall, you see Duvall pull out a gun in his driver's seat, and he's like shooting at the car, and the other car is like, and it's like, and you see the car just start swerving and everything. My jaw dropped in that because it was just came out of nowhere. The movie is fine. That is excellent. It's just incredibly excellent. It's just like it transcends that movie so much.
That's a great one.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
I've got a quick one and a cheating one. My quick one is, even in the sea of violence that is Pulp Fiction, when the gun goes off and Marvin gets shot in the face.
Oh, Jesus.
That was shocking.
Yeah.
And then the reaction of just like John Travolta almost coolly saying, like, "Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face."
Yeah.
And of course, Jules' reaction to it and everything. But that was just like, even with all of the unexpected stuff in that movie, that one just like hit me.
Well, and the timing of that is so hilarious because they're arguing about whether or not miracles exist or God came down and stopped the bullets. It's just perfect.
Well, yeah, John
You gotta have an opinion.
Yeah, John Travolta is turning around, and it's just normal part of the conversation. But he pulls that gun over. Now, in most movies, if somebody like pulls a gun over and everything, and they're just kind of talking, of course the gun's not going to fire.
Yeah,
but it does here, and just the way it just spreads the entire windshield with blood and guts and everything.
All my answers are going to involve shooting people in the head.
Yes.
I do have a quick cheating answer, though.
Yep.
It's the entire auditing session in The Master with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix, where it's shot so close up. He's on his boat, and it's just the two faces going back and forth, where he's just rapid fire questioning this guy. And, have you ever had sex with a family member or something like that? And, weird, crazy stuff that comes out. And by the end of it, or in the middle of it, Joaquin Phoenix is like hitting himself in the face because he's getting this shit wrong. And it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. And it's a slow jaw drop for me. But by the end of that, my jaw's on the floor. Yeah. Oh, it's a great scene.
That's a good one. I'm also going with the car chase, and it's from the Raid 2.
Oh, yeah.
There's several moments in the Raid 2 that made my jaw drop. That bathroom stall assault, the mud fight, the kitchen fight at the end. And I saw this with my friend Josh, who you guys have met. There's this amazing sequence where he's getting beat up by the guys in the car with him, and there are other cars following, and everybody's fighting with everybody. And the camera pulls out of one car, slides down the road, and zooms into another car's window and out the other side's window. And I turned to Josh and I was like, this movie's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I had never seen anything like that. And I instantly wanted to know, how the fuck did he do that? And there's actually a video on YouTube you can find on how he did it. There's a dude laying down in the car who grabs the camera and passes it out the window to a guy on a crane.
Oh my God.
But it's just so inventive, and it put me right there in the scene. God, I love that movie. It's so visceral.
Wow. I know. Raid 2 is fantastic.
Oh, I love this one. I love this one so much. Hi, Cinemasins. I'm 13 years old, and I want to become an actress. I am a cinephile, a big fan of your YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I love 80s movies and will be going into high school next year. My question for you is, what is the best 80s teen movie of all time, and who is your favorite 80s movie character?
How does a 13-year-old in 2016 become obsessed with 80s movies?
I don't know.
A good parent, that's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the question? Our favorite 80s movie?
And the favorite 80s character.
Oh, Jesus.
So there are obviously a lot of them, and I can probably agree with 10, 12 choices here. But I'm going to go with Risky Business.
Nice.
And I'm going to go with Tom Cruise. Actually, I'm gonna get to character, but Tom Cruise in Risky Business is as loose as you see him until Tropic Thunder, just about.
Yeah.
And I actually, this came on cable recently. I had to watch it because it's just one of those compulsively watchable movies. If you don't know what Risky Business is, it's him and Rebecca De Mornay, and for one night, she invites all of her friends to his house where, his parents are gone. Classic 80s trope. Parents are gone. Let's have a party. Except this time he's got hookers at his house, and all of his friends are just going to come in and pay for sex and then leave. And he's got this hope that he wants to go to Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
And the Princeton guy shows up during the party, which is bullshit. I mean, it comes is 8 or 9 o'clock at night. This guy shows up unannounced. But he interviews him. And the guy's like, well, you're not exactly Princeton material, are you? And he just takes it all in stride. De Mornay comes in, just watching him, and he puts on his sunglasses, and he stands up, and she's like, well, so what's the verdict? He goes, I guess it's the University of Illinois. He's so excited about going to the University of Illinois now because, hey, you know what? I'm making money and I'm having fun right now. Who cares? My favorite 80s character may be Gordon Gekko.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Not because of anything that I want to emulate in my life, but I think Michael Douglas really encapsulates the greed of the 80s and everything, and it's perfect. And he's so it's perfect because he seems like kind of a good guy with a rough edge and everything, but no, he's just pure evil.
Yeah.
He's a pure evil guy. And I think this is Douglas's best role ever, obviously.
Yeah.
I think he acknowledges, I don't think I'll ever do anything better than that. That character's filled with so many lines, so many I don't know how I pick over that guy in the 80s, but
It's a good one. Man, it's amazing how raunchy teen comedies were in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, risky business, a high schooler going into prostitution, that kind of thing. But so it's hard to pick something for a 13-year-old girl to watch that would be appropriate. But if she's listening to this podcast, she knows where our heads are at,
right?
Anyway, and
if she likes 80s teen comedies, then she's probably seen the worst.
She's used to it. I would say for my favorite 80s teen comedy, it would have to be Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
Which is such a quirky movie. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's absurdist and everything, but it's so much fun. And John Cusack is just going to his teeny bopper extreme and reaction shots and things like that, where he's like just going over the top. You've got the kid that's looking for his $2. You've got the two Japanese guys that were raised on Howard Cosell from Wide World of Sports, and they're trying to race him and everything. This movie hits all the beats. It's hilarious. You will not have a bad time. So that's my favorite, my recommend from the 80s. My favorite character, I'm actually going to stay on John Cusack.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be Lloyd Dobler.
Yeah.
Lloyd Dobler is just the most caring, compassionate, all-around dude that you kind of want to be.
And it's that, I think we mentioned it before, possibly when we've talked about Say Anything, the part where all the girls are in their room and someone goes Lloyd Dobler, and everybody's like, yeah. Pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, guy's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got the best line in that movie, and I may have mentioned this before, but I think it was Eric Stoltz at his party where the guy's like, I got to get my keys, man. I got my keys. And he's like, you must chill.
Yeah.
You must chill. I have hidden your keys. And he's like, oh, than's, man.
He's also such an optimist. There's that line I love where he says to his sister, why can't you just choose to be in a good mood? He's a lovable dude. That's a good choice. Yeah. I was watching Fast Times with Ridgemont High the other day.
Oh, another good one.
And my wife has never seen it, and she came in to see what I was watching right at the scene where Sean Penn has the pizza delivered to class.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, babe, you got to watch this scene. This is an iconic, classic scene. And then the next scene is Phoebe Cates getting out of the pool.
Of
course. And I was like, this is also an iconic, classic scene. And that's when I realized this whole movie is iconic and classic.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're talking 80s, the decade. I think we're talking 80s, the feel of the 80s, right? Because Back to the Future came out in the 80s. That's probably my favorite movie from the 80s. But it doesn't really sum up the 80s the way something like the ones we're talking about do. But for character, I'm going to go a little off book and go with Aaron, Albert Brooks's character in Broadcast News. Because he's not super attractive. He's got unrequited love for Holly Hunter. He's super smart with an acerbic wit. And that will never be enough to get him ahead of the William Hurts of the world, who have all the looks, even if they have no brains. And I always connected to that character because that's how I felt in school. I felt like I was smart, but not attractive enough to ever get the right girl's attention. And he just plays everything so cool. He calls in with facts when William Hurt is doing the hosting. And then by the end of the movie, he's figured out, I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to be on camera and read something that somebody else wrote. I like investigating and writing the news. So he's got nice closure there. Not necessarily, I mean, that is a very 80s feeling movie when you watch it. Not that it sums up the decade, but maybe might be a little cheat there, but that's my answer.
And Albert Brooks in that, the line that's sort of heartbreaking is when he's talking to Holly Hunter and he's like, I wish there were two of you, the one that I'm in love with and the one that I can run to and tell about the girl that I loved so much, And
then he's exhausted and he sits down. He's like, I gotta not say that anymore.
One sort of theme that you can probably come out of this on this 80s thing is you probably can't go wrong with John Cusack in the 80s, and you can't go wrong with Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And you have 2 in 1 on one movie, and then you have a whole bunch, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He wrote that. I mean, you can't go wrong with those guys in the 80s. But, I think those are some good choices there.
By the way, Jeremy, I find you very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was then. Now I know I'm hot.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, damn. Okay, this is an interesting one. What are some bad movies with good scores? And I'm going to go with I'll start. I'm going to go for a twofer because Elliot Goldenthal is a great composer, a great film composer specifically, and he did 2 that I think are for terrible movies. One was Batman Forever, which is a hideous movie. And that's just, it's almost, it's a derivation of the Danny Elfman theme of the da 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 da. And he kind of like turns it on its head a little bit, and it's really, really good. The other one is Interview with the Vampire, which is full of just screeching violins and these like weird. My favorite one is that kind of weird piece where Stephen Ray's character comes in and is like, walking upside down and all that stuff. And it's got this. It's almost disorienting.
There's a scene also, I think it's Antonio Banderas, who's like trying to pull that wall down or like pull bricks out. What's he trying to do? He's trying to get somebody from out that wall. But I remember the scene for whatever reason because of the score, because it has those violins that you're talking about. It's like like all that. It's really good. Yeah. A movie I haven't seen, but I've heard the score from, and I know is a bad movie, is The Last Airbender. And this is frequently cited. It's funny, you look on the internet and you write this very question on Google or whatever, and like this comes up quite a bit.
Oh, really?
James Newton Howard did this. And yeah, there's some really great music for a movie that did not deserve it. That's going to be my pick.
Interesting.
Well, part of me wants to go with something I talked about too recently to go with it, and that's Spider-Man 3, specifically that Sandman creation scene. But I'm just gonna go for the easy answer and say Phantom Menace and Duel of the Fates.
That's a perfect one.
Which is Duel of the Fates might be my favorite piece of Star Wars music, and Phantom Menace is my least favorite Star Wars movie. So I think that's saying something, especially, the extended version on the closing credits when we would go in there to clean that thing. There's a big chunk of Duel of the Fates there, and I just love it. It gives me chills even thinking about it.
Yeah, man. His use of, because he never used a choir in any of the other ones.
No.
It's a Carmina Burana type of thing, the Carl Orff type of that's in every movie trailer from the 80s. It's very much reminiscent of that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for this episode. Keep going to SoundCloud and giving us your thoughts.
Yeah, do all that stuff, because we get a lot of feedback from the people on iTunes, some from Spotify. Some people actually last week came to SoundCloud for the first time and said, I listened on a different platform, but I wanted to come and comment. So do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Give us ratings on iTunes. That's fine. The SoundCloud stuff is more immediate and we can respond to it. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing those comments. But anyway, that'll be it for this episode. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
Do you hate the Rocky Horror Picture Show as much as Chris does?
I am not a fan at all.
I think you're right. I watched it late last night.
Oh my God, that fucking
movie. But
Tim
Curry's performance is amazing, though.
It is. It's the songs that are worthwhile.
Yeah. Oh, everything else is garbage.
But everything else is very hard to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, God bless them. That's a nice twist on their regular
I guess they've done one or two other songs before.
Yeah.
And I guess the way it works is, I don't watch all their videos, but I guess they'll do just a little tiny snippet in a main bad lip reading video.
Yeah.
And if enough people clamor, they make a whole song out of it. And that's, I guess, what they did here.
Nice. I'm not your friend. What is it? What? Don't fall asleep was the last thing.
So many moments
Don't fall asleep.
I thought, okay, I'm done laughing at this. And then something else would happen, and I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's catchy as hell, too.
It's weird that so many people voted for that to be an AMA.
Yeah, well, that's the only reason I did it, because it had so many upvotes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't get to the front page with a request for that if people don't actually want it. So, okay,
How many requests was it again?
How many what?
Requests?
Well, there were, by the time I sent it to you guys, there was like over 2,000, I think, upvotes on maybe 1,700.
And you would think out of that 2,000, there would be about 100 who were like, yeah, I want them to do an AMA. I can't wait to rip them, man. I've been like,
They came out. They were there.
I've been holding on to this. I've been holding on to this one for years, man.
I was most impressed, not really impressed, but frustratedly impressed with the people who like write half their comment really kindly and then zing you at the end with what a turd you are. Like, hi, I've watched your videos since the very beginning. Why did you stop being funny? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Nice.
I forgot I did that.
I don't know. I wasn't aware that we were not funny anymore.
Oh, you weren't?
I thought we were doing the same thing, but all right.
I was surprised that when I reached down to quickly answer my favorite music video of all time, that I came up with Aerosmith's Crying.
I was surprised too.
But I kept thinking about it, and I think it probably is.
It's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
Got no problem with that.
It's a great song.
Is that the one with Alicia Silverstone and Liv Tyler?
Yeah. No, not Liv Tyler. It's the first one because they did a trilogy. They did Crying, Amazing, and Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love Craisins, man.
Crying's the one where Alicia Silverstone's like basically like leaves the dude on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And then she goes and gets tattoos because that's what you do after you leave your boyfriend.
Oh, the Stephen Dorff one.
Yeah. Stephen Dorff.
Yeah, that is a
Stephen
wild
Dorff
video.
and fucking Hawkeye.
Yeah. Josh, what's his name from Lost?
Oh,
Josh
Sawyer.
Yeah.
And then she jumps off of a bridge with no rope.
But then
until at the very end.
ready to show that there was a bungee all the whole time and able to flip off the world.
My answer was pretty good too.
By the end of it.
What was your Cradle of Love?
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think you can see that video as a teenager and not have it permanently burned on your brain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, when you say we're not funny anymore,
Go ahead.
Yes.
I look back at old videos and go, man, that's kind of embarrassing. But they look back at those old videos and go, those were the times, man.
Yeah.
So I just wonder what it is.
There was one guy on that AMA that was like, never heard of you. Which video should I start with? And I was like, well, I guess the first one, because it's short. If you hate us, you only wasted 2 minutes. And then he came back. I forget which one it was, but like 4 or 5 videos later was the one that finally clicked for him. And he was like, and now I love it.
Oh, yeah.
And he watched the first one and then watched the Avengers one. I think it was the Hunger Games one that clicked or whatever. I'm like, all right. I can't wait for you guys to hear the audio on Tuesday's video from where I spoke French. Because I got maybe the first 5 syllables. Pretty sure I got them right on, and then I just devolved into. I said to the editors, "I'm not even going to do another take. That's perfect."
Yep.
Because the French writing will be on screen for anybody that wants to go find out what I said.
All right, everybody, welcome. Oh, fuck me. I had it right, and then I just said, "Fuck it."
See that girl? Watch that scene. Dig it, the dancing queen. Oh.